Welcome back to another edition of Sideline-to-Sideline. I am your host, Ryan Fleming, and joining me as usual is the ever dapper, ever present Eminem over here himself, Chuck Lafleur.
Check out the Bills logo. I want to do like an MMA fighter intro or a boxer intro, right? So the hood slowly comes off with the beloved Buffalo Bills logo on it. And there we go.
And there he is.
It's
folks.
now hood hair, something you never have to worry about, Ryan Fleming.
No, I never have that problem as I drop everybody who is live streaming with us right now. I do apologize.
And we're off and running.
We're off to our great start as per normal. But hey, what else would you expect when we're talking about something like the best Super Bowl moments? Because some of these moments aren't necessarily based on grace or finesse. Some of these moments are known for, the awkward and the weird.
Yeah, there have been a lot of things that have happened over the years. We've got a great show lined up, by the way. We're going to talk, best Super Bowls, worst Super Bowls, best halftime shows, worst halftime shows. And we have a very special guest who's going to be joining us momentarily, Ryan. Diane Moore from the Giant FM Morning Show. If you are planning a Super Bowl party, Diane is a social butterfly, and she's going to give you and I and all of our viewers and listeners some tips on how to make a great Super Bowl party on February 2nd.
You got that right. Chuck Lafleur is pulling out all the strings today. He got the big guns in here. We've got the big celeb from the Giant FM Morning Show, Diane Moore, coming in here, and it's going to be a fun time. Seeing what she has planned for Super Bowl and what we can learn from her here.
She's wearing her Jimmy Garoppolo jersey, by the way. Big San Fran fan, so is her husband Josh. Yeah.
You know what? I'm okay with the 49ers right now because they took out those horrible Green Bay Packers.
I thought you were going to say Minnesota Vikings.
No, you know what? I'm okay with that as long as, that's what...
Loving the
as long as they take out the Packers, I'm happy.
Yeah, Green Bay... San Fran was just the 49ers just in a different on a different level than the Green Bay Packers, right? When they got to the NFC Championship game. And kudos to you, even though the Vikings are not around. Check out the threads on this guy with the AP jersey on here.
It's weird because this morning Chuck asked me if I really wanted to switch this jersey out.
Yes.
And then I figured I would stick with it because there's no beating a dead horse here.
Puns intended.
Puns very much intended. Thank you very much. Rob Hubbard says, "What a horrible jersey you have on, Marshmallow."
He's great. Way to go, Hubbs.
Oh, come on. You love it. You love it.
Hubbs is a big 49er fan, too.
And see, I'm giving out love for the Niners after what they did to my team, and still this is the lack of respect we get.
Crystal Plot, Crossfire Wrestling, another big 49ers fan. He says the defense of the 49ers is going to take care of anybody, including the Kansas City Chiefs. Hard to argue with that. Man, oh man, they looked incredible against the Green Bay Packers. You want to touch on quickly before we get to our greatest and worst Super Bowls of all time, the overall playoffs. What did you think of to get to this point, both teams, Kansas City and San Francisco?
I think both teams, obviously, and I'm just going to be harping on a lot of the same stuff that other people have talked about before, but I think a lot of, I think these teams have shown that they are the top two teams in the NFL this season. As much as Baltimore was that surprise team, and I mean, if Lamar Jackson doesn't win the MVP, it's a shame.
For sure.
But I don't know, these teams were destined to be here. And Jimmy G, 8 passes completed?
6 of 8.
6 of 8.
In the modern era, if that has ever happened in a playoff game or a regular season game, even.
Exactly. And we had never heard from
Raheem Mostert.
I've never heard of Mostert this year.
20 yards, 4 touchdowns, all kinds of records set in that game. And they didn't have to throw the ball at all. When you've got somebody doing that to the opposition, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. And it worked, man, oh man. And Tennessee Titans do want to send a big shout out to the Titans. Cinderella's story fell just short, but they were up against KC. And even though they had a couple of 10-point leads, I think they played over and above all expectations. When you start looking at Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, who would have thunk it, right?
Nobody.
They would be in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, Tannehill was amazing, but I do think that the magic wore off. They got to a juggernaut in Kansas City that I don't think Kansas City loses this Super Bowl coming up. I don't think there's a way San Francisco even competes with them.
As we're doing the show right now on Sideline-to-Sideline, they open up pretty much even. KC now 1-point favorites. Last I checked, that may change. I don't think it's going to change by much. These are two evenly matched teams, and I'm with you. Hands down, the two best teams in the NFL. One quick note to Bills fans. Anyone has looked up Patrick Mahomes, he was drafted 10th overall by Kansas City. Right?
And the Bills had a shot at him.
With the pick that was acquired by, you guessed it, the Buffalo Bills. But the Bills traded down and they got an extra first-round pick. So it works out the Bills get Trey White and Tremaine Edmonds in the long run out of that. So it's a trade that doesn't happen often, but that has helped both teams. Patrick Mahomes was not... Who knew he was going to become the superstar so quickly? He did. 9 other teams passed on him as well. So, But with him at the helm, I'm going with you. I'm Kansas City. Maybe a field goal is going to be the difference.
You think it'll be that tight?
Either way in this game, man.
I have a strange feeling, and that it's going to be a blowout. I really do think it's going to be a blowout. I think Kansas City's going to come out punching. I think they're going to put points on the board right away, and that's going to force San Francisco to do the one thing we haven't really seen San Francisco do all year long, or since Jimmy G's been there, and is be a dominant passing team. They have a good passing game. Don't get me wrong. That's not to disparage, what they've done in their air attack, but I wouldn't put them as a top tier air team.
No, if their defense, the running game, keys for San Fran and Jimmy G. If they can keep him out of mischief heading up to the Super Bowl, that'd be a better team for it. All right, let's get to favorite Super Bowl games, best Super Bowls. The reason we mentioned this, USA Today has just come out with a ranking of all 53 Super Bowl games. We're going to start. We're not going to name all 53. The worst one they said. Remember back in 2014, Denver and Seattle. That ended up 43-8 for the Seahawks, and it was, and I don't think there's much argument there, just a yawner from start to finish with the Seahawks winning that one. But on the other side of the coin, boy, there have been some classics. What jumps out at you when you think of greatest Super Bowls of all time?
The first one that always jumps out to me, there's a couple that jump out to me right away when I think Super Bowl. The first one I think of is 1 Yard Short, and I think that's the one that's on almost everybody's top 10 list.
Rams in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, Rams in Tennessee. Kurt Warner, Steve McNair going head to head there, and Steve McNair on that final drive finding Kevin Dyson at the 2 or 3, and Dyson trying to extend, and it was a matter of inches, and it was Mike Jones, the linebacker for St. Louis, that made that stop that changed history. And what a great game. And I remember thinking at the time, this is maybe the greatest game, competitive game of any sport I've ever seen in my life at that time.
Now, I'm not sure who USA Today surveyed for this poll, but that game you're talking about ranked number 6. My favorite Super Bowl game of all time, and it's the game that really cemented Joe Montana as Joe Cool. Back in 1988, the 49ers are trailing in that game, and with a couple of minutes to go, Joe Montana starts driving the team down the field. Have you ever heard the story about, obviously, the enormity of the pressure in that situation, where he's in the huddle, and Joe Montana just got to calm these guys down, right? Looks over at, points at the crowd and says, "Hey, isn't that John Candy over there?" Everybody cracks up, right? And then he marches the ball down the field, marches the team down the field. John Taylor with under 40 seconds to go with the game-winning touchdown as the Niners come back to beat the Bengals 20-16. For me, that's the one where, Joe Montana is my favorite player of all time.
Right.
Really cemented his legacy. If he had not won another game after that, the legend was born.
I remember that because it was a very similar play to, I don't know if it was the Super Bowl prior to that the Niners had won, or a couple. But Dwight Clark, the catch. Or no, that was Dwight Clark was the catch, and John Taylor was the drive, I believe.
Yeah.
Or maybe vice versa. But I do believe the Taylor one was the drive, and what's his name in the end zone there? Dwight Clark was the catch.
Yeah, you know what? Anything Joe Montana was, and also to if we're talking about greatest Super Bowls of all time, any game Terry Bradshaw and the Pittsburgh Steelers were involved with back in the 1970s, they were a dynasty, and you rarely see a team be that good for that long anymore, because salary caps and that sort of thing, right? But I loved watching the Steelers with Mean Joe Green and company. They were vicious and they were good.
Oh, for sure. Was the Immaculate Reception a Super Bowl game, or was that a playoff game?
I believe that was in the AFC Championship game.
Okay.
Off the the top of my pointy head. I think that was an AFC Championship game. But again, legendary performances. You know what they had listed as the top Super Bowl game of all time? And tell me if you agree with this. Not that long ago, 2016 Super Bowl 51, Atlanta Falcons in the third quarter, mind you, up 28-3, and the New England Patriots. Again, we talk about legacies and legends being created. Tom Brady, if he wasn't already a legend by then, comes back, and the Patriots end up beating the Falcons 34-28, and probably, I don't think probably, absolutely the biggest collapse, the biggest choke job in Super Bowl history.
Yeah, most definitely. And you got to feel bad for Matty Ice, for Matt Ryan. You know, the guy has been one of those consummate professionals, great quarterback, good team guy, good locker room guy, and he kind of wanted to see him win a Super Bowl. But that was that game that even at halftime, you're like, you know what? Against anybody else, this game is over. But it's not out of the realm of possibility for Bill Belichick and Tom Brady to lead a comeback, which we saw. It was a completely different game from the third quarter on.
As soon as the Patriots got on track and the momentum switched, you knew it was over, even with that huge lead for Atlanta. Noticeably absent from our conversation thus far, Ryan, is any Super Bowl involving the Buffalo Bills. If we want to talk about, as a fan, most disappointing Super Bowls, well, that is a no-brainer back in 1991.
Wide right.
2 words, wide right, and the Bills had in their grasp the winning points for the Super Bowl. And then they went to 3 other Super Bowls after that, of course, and it didn't come nearly as close as that. And we're still waiting.
My favorite fan outcry or fan retaliation after that Super Bowl was the next season, seeing a Bills fan wearing a Scott Norwood jersey, but the name on his back was just off-centered to the right. So his name tailored off to his shoulder, so it was wide right, you would say. Buffalo Bills fans, I feel your pain. I, as a Vikings fan, going 0 for 4, I totally get it, and I feel for you. But that 4 straight. I think for me, that's even though it's not one particular Super Bowl, I think the fact that they went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost all 4 of them is a bigger feat than someone going to 4 straight and winning all 4.
You know, just to get to 4 Super Bowls is something that we likely will never see again. Number 2 on the list, by the way, the New York Giants upsetting the New England Patriots. Remember this was back in 2017? Mm-hmm. Wasn't New England perfect up until that point and trying to become a 19-0 team?
That's right.
The Giants just stuck it to them and pulled the upset.
And the thing is, the Giants were losing that game. The Patriots had that game up until that absolutely insane play where Eli Manning evades an obvious sack. Like he is sacked. They've got him in his grasp. Somehow he gets out, throws this Hail Mary up in the air, and I'm sure he didn't look at the receiver at all. He just threw it up in the hope for the best, and he got the best result. David Tyree with that one-handed catch, placing the ball between his hand and his helmet and securing the catch. It was unbelievable to see, and then just to see kind of New England fall apart after that and lose the game, it was
just so sad to see. Just to round up the top 5 for you here. Patriots 28, Seahawks 24, 2014 Super Bowl 49. It'll be remembered for Russell Wilson's goal line interception. Remember, you've got beast mode, you've got Marshawn Lynch, and it's 1st and goal, and he doesn't touch the ball, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and Pete Carroll is still the coach.
Go figure. And number 4 was the one I mentioned earlier, my favorite Super Bowl of all time. Niners come back to beat the Bengals. And rounding up the top 5, Pittsburgh Steelers. There we go. 2008, not from the Terry Bradshaw area, but Roethlisberger at the helm. Beat the Arizona Cardinals 27-23. And that rounds out their top 5. Now, we switch gears for a second. Halftime shows. Favorites, least favorites?
You know, it's... To me, it's hard to say least favorite because I'm one of those people, and I know you're going to hate me for this, some will hate me for this, and some won't. Maybe some will feel the same way. Halftime, I don't watch. I've rarely ever watched a halftime performance. The last few ones that I can really remember watching was, I really enjoyed Tom Petty's.
Yeah, 2008.
Tom Petty's was amazing.
Great halftime.
I remember watching, I wouldn't say I really enjoyed it, but I remember watching Michael Jackson's where he appeared at all the different ends of the stadium at once.
Yeah, you know what, I think that was 93. That was when they really switched gears and started getting mega stars in. It started with Michael Jackson. I'm going to throw some names out at you here for a second. The very first Super Bowl back in 1967, I actually wrote this down because I would forget. The University of Arizona Symphonic Marching Band and the Grambling State University Marching Band, along with trumpeter, or is it trumpeter or trumpeter?
Trumpeter.
Trumpeter.
Yeah.
Puppeteer.
Yeah.
Okay. Al Hurt. And the Anaheim High School Drill Team and Flag Girls. That was the first Super Bowl.
Oh, the well-known Al Hurts. I've heard him play the Giant.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. He's done a couple of. I think he did at least two. 1973, Andy Williams
Okay.
was the halftime show. I don't remember this, but in 1980, Up with People. Remember that?
Up with People.
Up
Never
with
even
People.
heard of
They all
Up
had
with
smiles
People.
on their faces and perfect haircuts and all
Oh.
looked very happy. New Kids on the Block, 1991.
Yeah, well, we're still hanging tough after that one.
Oh,
hey, hey,
93, Michael Jackson. I love the country when they had a 94. Travis Tritt, Tanya Tucker, Clint Black, and the Judge. And then, of course, they went classic rock for a while. 05, McCartney, Rolling Stones in 06, Tom Petty 08, The Who in 2010, Madonna in 2012.
That was weird.
Last year, Maroon 5, and of course, for a lot of people, the worst, or one of the more memorable ones, to love it or not, was in 2004. Jessica Simpson, P. Diddy, Kid Rock, and I'm glad you never had one of these, wardrobe malfunction, Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake. If nothing else, they got a heck of a lot of coverage out of that one.
They did, and to this day, Janet Jackson still says it was wardrobe malfunction,
Yeah, right.
whereas Justin Timberlake has come out and said it was planned on stage.
What
So-
do you think, sir?
Well, I'm going with JT on this one, and I never thought I would ever say that, but I'm going with Justin Timberlake. I think he is telling the truth this way. No, those were some great halftime spots, and those are the ones that all stick out for me as well. You know, the Nipplegate is a huge one,
Yeah.
but the one thing about halftime that I always think about, it's all about the food. It's
That's
the
it.
one thing about halftime is food. And
speaking of which,
oh, I don't know how I feel about this jersey.
Sideline-to-Sideline with her Jimmy G jersey.
Just so I can show the folks at home what's going on here.
Hello.
And she's wearing her Jimmy G
Moore
stuff.
from the Giant Event Morning Show.
That's a
How's it going, guys?
Going great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Kind of freeze in here.
We've talked about the greatest and the worst Super Bowl games of all time. We've talked about the greatest and worst halftime shows of all time.
Yep.
But another huge component is the
food?
Super Bowl party, the food, and everything else that's involved with it. And so we're bringing in Diane Moore here to give us some tips because we are, we're social misfits, I guess.
We are social misfits,
Okay,
and
okay.
Diane is the party guru.
Yeah, when it comes
So-
to
Okay,
party
all right,
planning,
all right.
none better than Diane.
Okay, so I may not know that much about football, but there's one thing I do know, and that's how to throw a good party. Okay? So if you're going to throw a Super Bowl party, the most important thing that you can have is obviously a very large TV.
Fair.
Like, if you don't have at least a 50-inch TV screen, why are you even throwing a Super Bowl
So
party?
minimum 50-inch TV.
Yes.
Minimum.
Okay?
All right, I'm writing this
And
down.
make sure it's clean too. Like take one of those static cloths, wipe all the fur and
That's true,
smudges
you know.
and dust
Yeah.
off.
Good advice.
Right?
I'm already out. I'm already out. I don't have anything that's been dusted in my house.
Oh yeah, you can dust the TV.
Fair.
Okay,
All right.
big clean TV. I think it's always a good idea to have like a really good crowd, friends that are in a good mood, jovial. They don't even have to be necessarily sports enthusiasts, but you need to have at least one person who is willing to explain what's happening to those who are just there for the food.
Sure.
Right?
So you need the play-by-play guy
Yes.
for in the party as well.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah, because you're going to have like some serious sports fans and then those who are just there for the party.
Yeah.
You need to have at least one person who's willing to explain what's going on.
So the casual fans, because football
Right.
can get pretty intricate.
It really
It's
can.
a complicated sport.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
a few rules in it. Just a few.
Like too many.
How
Okay?
important then would be like team merchandise, team jerseys, hats, that sort
I
of
think that all the sports fans are going to bring their own,
Yeah.
right? And then the non-sport fan, well, whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
they're
They'll bring
there.
their
they're
gay
having
sports
fun.
ball.
If you want to have like a sign or something, I mean, what?
Yeah. So there's no dress code.
There's
per se.
no dress
Okay.
code.
All
You don't even
right.
have to wear a jersey. But what I did for one of the first Super Bowl parties I went to like years ago, I didn't have any sports clothing. So I made a shirt. I actually just like I bought like a tank top and then I put Niners on it. And I wore that.
Very creative.
Now, are you a Niners fan?
I am. Because my husband calls me a fake fan, okay? So here's what I am. Like I went to a Super Bowl party and I had to pick a team and it was the Niners. They were in the Super Bowl. That was the last time they played in the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, okay, I'm gonna cheer on the Niners. I like San Francisco. So I picked them. And I stuck with them ever since. And my husband just happens to be a huge Niners fan. So it was perfect.
You're trying to do the math right now, aren't you?
I
can see it. You're like, when was the last time they were in the...
What year was that?
Was that Colin Kaepernick? Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick season, yeah. I'm
Not that long ago.
But it was like, what, 5 years?
Wasn't Joe
years?
Montana or Steve Young?
Oh, gosh.
No, but didn't they go to...
But
The Niners went with Kaepernick and Alex Smith that year. They did lose,
They
yeah.
lost.
Yeah, and they haven't been back since.
No.
And I can't say anything as a Vikings fan because we haven't been there since the 70s.
Been a while.
Oh, gosh.
Right, I wasn't even born, so...
But yeah. Okay.
You know what, Diane? We've got a whole list here.
I do.
Let's get the list.
I wrote down the 6 things you have to have. So the TV, the friends, the food. Okay, obviously the food is big. I remember one year I went to a Super Bowl party and I actually made a stadium out of cardboard and put like dips and chips in the middle, and then in the actual stands, I filled it with like cookies and brownies that were shaped like footballs and like M&Ms and pretzels. Like you have to have a centerpiece, right?
Right.
It can't just be pizza and wings.
She's good.
You gotta have
really
like
good.
Well, pizza
go
and
big
wings
or go home.
Yeah, so pizza and wings are a staple,
Well,
but there are a lot of other...
You gotta have the nachos. You know, you can have chili, although I never like to do chili at an event where there's a lot of people because you're gonna regret it later.
Right.
Okay, so that's just me. One year I did slow cooked ribs. Like I did a whole bunch of big pile of ribs. So those are the go-tos.
So right now what I'm hearing though, and out of all these great ideas, and they're all great, but the best idea I think to have for a Super Bowl party is just to have Di do it for you. You seem to be the Andrew Lloyd Webber of Super Bowl parties.
I know how to throw a party. You gotta have comfy seating for everyone that's there. No one wants to sit on a hard wooden chair and watch a Super Bowl, right?
Sure.
Yep.
You've gotta have comfy, even if it's a beanbag on the floor, that's better. Right?
Beanbags are awesome.
I like this.
You've gotta have comfy seating. And then prop bets are always fun.
Right.
We always did like a pool with that squares.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
pick
yeah.
a square and then each quarter there's a prize.
And that keeps you in the game right till the end. Even if it's a
Exactly.
blowout, right?
So like whoever's match up your numbers or whatever for the score at the first quarter, you get some money. The halftime's even more money.
Right.
Then third quarter's a little less, and then the end, the final score is the big jackpot.
The big money, and that's what keeps everybody, like you said, keeps everybody there the entire
And then you
game.
can have like a few prop bets in there too, like how long is the national anthem going to be?
Yep.
Over under 2 minutes. That kind of thing to keep it entertaining for
And you have to
everyone.
have somebody who's fairly sober to keep track of all the prop bets, right?
Right.
I'm out already.
Out again.
Don't forget the surround sound system because the halftime show, you
Now,
gotta crank it up for that.
Now we were just speaking about halftime shows.
Yeah.
Now, is that the thing for you when it comes to Super Bowl? Like, are you big on the halftime?
I'm big on the food, okay? Let's be honest. That is like the number one for me. Then it's the halftime show.
Now, do you have a favorite performance at the halftimes that you can think of?
You know what? I enjoy all of them. Probably, I would say Prince did a really good one. Let's go back away.
Prince
from-
was great. That
Yeah,
was a
I
great
Let's
really
go
one.
glad you
back
brought
because
that up.
he really brought it because he did like covers of like Foo Fighters and Queen, and it was like just like a whole big rock and roll, like everything. I think I like that one the best.
I think Al Hurt did a lot of those covers too when he was performing.
Right, I'm still trying to find who Al Hurt is. I just don't have an almanac old enough to find the
We'll talk
guy.
about that after the show. I don't think he has anything to do with this when he showed up. Now let's get to another very important part, beverages.
Oh yes, always good to have some nice cold beer on hand, and then just a amount of other spirits, if you will.
Now, do you have a spirit of that's your favorite?
I'm a wine drinker, so I always have wine for me and the other women who are going to be there,
Yes.
and then beer and cocktails for everyone who likes that stuff.
So just to clarify, legally you can drink wine during the Super Bowl then, right?
Yes,
Okay,
it is highly
alright.
encouraged in my house.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to wine. I'm a wine drinker myself. I'm the archetype though, or sorry, the antithesis of the typical male wine drinker. I do not like red wine at all. I'm a white wine drinker.
Nothing wrong with that.
I like me some Gewürztraminer. I like a little sweeter.
Gewürztraminer.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what though? Anyone who says that wine doesn't go with pizza isn't doing it right.
What doesn't go with pizza? That's my question.
Yeah.
Is there anything that really doesn't go with pizza? Wait, there is something. I seen it the other day online. Someone put kiwi on their pizza.
I know it's the new thing.
Yeah,
Well, if you like pineapple, maybe you like kiwi. But I just believe the fruit doesn't go on a pizza, okay?
You could do that too. Hey, it's the Super Bowl. Anything goes, right? And of course, all kidding aside, make sure if you are going to be attending a party and you're consuming, you have a designated driver
Yes.
or some
Uber.
mode of transportation, Uber.
Yeah,
whatever.
it's always a good idea to plan ahead because that's why I'm taking Monday off after the Super Bowl. I'm planning really far ahead.
February 30th, the schedule comes out, dies off.
So the one thing that the one takeaway that I've got from Di's report here is that I've been doing Super Bowls all wrong all these years. Like,
There's one more thing too to keep in mind. If you are going to have kids there, though I think Super Bowl party's better without kids, but if you're going to have a family event, have a kids corner where you can keep them distracted. Okay?
Sure.
Maybe they have their own little TV with like some cartoons or something, or have like activities that they can go in their little space and entertain themselves, so they're not bugging you throughout.
You've been there,
You
done
don't
that,
distract
haven't
them from the game, right?
I've been there, but I've been the one that's been distracted by the kids, or been the one distracting the kids.
Right.
Usually, you're the same level, Like, hey, give me that controller.
Aww. Yeah, have a little video game set up over in the corner.
Exactly. I love this. These are great advice and some great tools to use when trying to throw the proper Super Bowl party, which is coming up soon.
Do you
folks.
have to have like decorations too? Last question, anything?
You know what? I don't think you do for.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to, sure. But honestly, there's the focus is on the television.
Yeah.
It's not like another party where you're socializing, walking around, enjoying some decor, right? Like you're just sitting there staring at a TV. So I think that the food is the decor.
Last question when it comes to having a Super Bowl party.
Mhm.
Is it proper etiquette to be just having normal everyday conversations during the game?
Oh, that depends who you talk to. I say you have to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Like I know some real like sports fans like my husband are like, you should just only be talking about the game and we're watching the game and stop distracting me from the game. And I'm like, no, this is a social like get together. So if you're throwing a Super Bowl party, you should expect that the conversation will deviate a lot from the game.
Yeah, it transcends from just being a sporting event, and it is more of a social event for
Yes.
for a vast majority of people.
Yeah.
I think we don't follow the intricacies or in football.
Like I know a lot of people who go to Super Bowl parties just for the fun.
Yeah. Or just go just for the fun and to watch the American feed, to watch the commercials.
Exactly.
Like the commercials is like the big
Yeah,
talk
it's like,
every year.
oh, they're playing the game again. Oh, wait, the commercials are on. Everyone stop.
There's a talking Clydesdale again.
There's some talent in those Clydesdale. Well, Di, we thank you, and I think thanks to you, a lot of people are going to have that much more of an enhanced Super Bowl experience come February 2nd. One last question. Prediction on the game between the San Francisco 49ers and the KC Chiefs.
Obviously, the Niners are going to win, and I'm rooting for the Niners. And everyone who keeps telling me they're not the favorites, I say, boo on you.
Chuck, who do you got for the big game?
I'm going to go with Kansas City by a field goal. I think this is going to be one of the best Super Bowls in a long, long time.
It'll be tight.
Yep.
I really hope you're right, because I do think these are two of the best teams out there, and this could be a great game. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, Di, I'm taking KC in a cakewalk here. I'm saying 14 points at least.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Blowout here.
I'm thinking it's going to be a blowout, and I think by the third quarter, a lot of people are going to be checking out. I'm sorry, it's just like I said. If Patty Mahomes, if they start off big and they start throwing the ball and they score a touchdown on their first drive, that's going to force San Francisco to go away from their running game, and that is not their strength.
See, here's the thing with the Super Bowl. However they've been playing all year round, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
The Super Bowl is a whole different beast.
that's true.
So
It's
you
one
just
and
don't
done.
know what's going to happen.
And how people handle pressure, how
That's what I
people
mean.
react to the situation,
Yeah.
and momentum switches just like that. So there you have it, our first prediction of a blowout in the Super Bowl. Right.
That's right. I will be your Stephen A. Smith for the day.
That's why you just eat lots of food and you won't care who is winning or losing. You'll be focused on like everything else that's going on.
By halftime, yeah, you just get yourself to the point you don't care.
Yeah.
And I think Diane's found herself a new profession, a new side gig as a party planner.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, Diane, thank you so much for joining us and giving us some great tips. It's
Thanks
been
for having me. My first time on a sports show.
Well, hey, there you go. Hey, we bring newbies in all the time, and that's what we like to do. Help make everyone inclusive.
Maybe we can get you back in. Yeah, inclusive the key word here. Maybe we can get Diane back for, I don't know, if we do a Daytona 500 episode or something, right?
Only if there's a party game thrown involved.
Right. I might be with you on that one too. But anyways, for Diane Moore, for Chuck Lafleur, I'm Ryan Fleming, and thanks again for joining in for another edition of Sideline to Sideline right here on Giant TV.